Hey guys, this is Chris from Rekkid Talk with my top 21 of 21 list. So these are going to be my favorite new albums of the past year, 2021. I'll tell you right now, a major criterion for making my list is that I actually listen to the record. So if your favorite record isn't on my list, that's probably the reason. Also, it might be that I didn't like it as much as you did. And I've seen a lot of other people's lists that have already been posted. And frankly, what happened a lot of times is a lot of you guys are posting stuff I haven't even listened to yet. So I'll probably have a better list around 2026. And I did spend time around Christmas time going back and re-listening to all. I'd made up like a tentative list. I went back and re-listened, listened to some ones that were sort of on the bubble of making it, did some last second shuffling. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So my number 21 is going to be a local favorite here, the Kentucky Vultures Hall of Fame. No one else is going to have this on their list. I actually booted Iron Maiden for this. And the real reason why was because Tim Johns comped me and Steve Harris didn't. So Tim Johns is a literature professor at the university I work at. And so he's the songwriter and vocalist and rhythm guitar player in this band. So it's sort of like the California literature professor meets cool Southern kids. It sort of sounds like an Americana tinged version of Guided by Voices. Tim's voice is a bit like Bob Pollard's, so that's going to be my number 21. It's on Slough Water Records, which of course is just a very small local label. S.G. Goodman is on a couple of the songs singing background vocals. This would probably be very hard for you to get, although I think you can stream it. If anybody wants a physical copy, I do have an extra copy. I went out and bought one after Tim gave one to me. So if that'd be something you'd be interested in, let me know. All right, so I kind of fussed a lot about my number 20. I ended up going with Yola, Stand for Myself. This is the first but not last person representing Bristol in the UK on my list. Pretty clear and purple vinyl. So this is a Grammy-nominated record, sort of soul meets Americana. Yola spent a lot of her time as a backup singer before she stepped out on her own. There was a lot of other candidates for this number 20 spot. Another Grammy-nominated album by Brandi Carlile, Wes Rutenberg, who's pretty unknown, Tyler Childers, Lou Barlow. I just got the Plant Allison Krauss record. Ends up being a near miss. If I'd had time for a few more listens, it might have made it. A lot of these were kind of the records I wanted to like more than I actually liked them. Something that definitely not on the list is that Sleater-Kinney record. Kind of pissed me off when I re-listened to it. The first couple tracks are just horrid. The single Worry With You is fine, but I just don't like this Janet Weiss-less Sleater-Kinney very much. All right. My number 19 is going to be the self-titled record by Louisville's My Morning Jacket. Honestly, this is pretty much a medium level My Morning Jacket record. So I had that upside down. I about dumped the pretty vinyl on the floor. That's still going to be top 20 material for me, although this is definitely, if I ever do a My Morning Jacket ranking, I doubt that this is going to be in my top 2 or 3. Number 18 is going to be a CD-only release. Here's an obscurity, The Mysteries of Life Blue Jay. And so if you don't know who the Mysteries of Life are, so this is a band with Jake Smith and Frida Love Smith. So Frida Love was in the Blake Babies and Some Girls and Antenna. And then they formed this band called Mysteries of Life. They actually got signed to a major in the mid-90s. They had a wonderful song that really went under the radar, but it's a great single called Going Through the Motions. A couple major label records that got dropped, some minor label stuff. They had kids. They got their career going. And really, they're just part-time musicians. But this is a very good record. So Juliana Hatfield does some background vocals because, of course, the connection with Frida being in the Blake Babies. The track number 4, Jupiter and Saturn, is really a gem. Probably their best song since Going Through the Motions. What keeps us from getting higher in the list, it's a bit samey in tempo. Could use a couple more up-tempo songs. And they only made 100 of these with sort of a crowdsourced album on CD, so I have one of them. I think the only way you're going to get it is for the Bandcamp digital download, unless you actually find somebody selling their CD. Number 17 will be another CD. And this is actually one that I won in a contest. So I won this from Sack Blabbeth. So this is I Hate God with a History of Nomadic Behavior. And so this is New Orleans Sludge Doom. I mean, I'm going to be honest, this is never going to be sort of my main style, my main genre of music. But it's fun to have a little bit more representing that sort of thing, like the Melvins and St. Vitus. There were probably hundreds of bands made up of guys who listened to Black Sabbath who thought it would be better played faster, much smaller number of people who thought it'd be better played slower. The very last song on the CD, Everything Every Day, I find that to be a great closer. It's sort of like a slowed down hardcore song. So it's like take a hardcore song and make it into a 5-minute sludgy song. So my number 16 is something that I've ordered on vinyl, but I haven't got the vinyl yet. So we're going to probably get too much glare to really be able to see that. So it's the Ballad of Dude and Juanita by Sturgill Simpson. I know you didn't really see it. Very good me trying to show it on my phone. So I don't have it on vinyl yet. I have it ordered, but it hasn't arrived. I've listened to it on streaming so far. Kind of a story of Appalachia. A much more traditional sounding, harkening back to maybe his first record and the Cut and Grass records. I don't think it's up to the quality of better modern music or Sailor's Guide or Sound and Fury. It's supposedly the last of his 5-album career arc, which doesn't count the Cutting Grass records. Now he's supposedly never doing a solo record again. I don't think I really believe him on that. Whether he forms a band or what, I don't think we've heard the last out of good old Sturgill. Number 15, this is on a lot of lists, so this is Daddy's Home by St. Vincent. I'll be honest, when I first got this record, I wasn't much into it originally. It's something that did benefit from some re-listens. It was probably on verge of not making my list, but the last couple of re-listens, I did like it more. I guess I got more into sort of that 70s vibe that she's trying to come up with here and not expecting it to be another Strange Mercy. My number 14, recent discovery, Illuminati Hotties, Let Me Do One More. So this is what Sarah Judkin, if I remembered her name right, is calling Tender Punk. So it's sort of indie, sort of emo, sort of pop punk, female vocals, of course. There's a lot of pretty catchy tunes on here. Pool Hoppin', the first song, kind of their single in particular. And listening to this album is sort of like eating sugar cookies. My number 13, lucky number 13, is Parquet Courts, Sympathy for Life. I found some of the songs that sound kind of Brit-poppy, even though reading up on these guys are from New York City. They're sort of garagey. They don't really even like the UK. They're kind of snotty. You've got some post-punk and garage elements, sort of Fall meets Pavement meets Talking Heads sort of thing. Parquet Courts at my number 13. Number 12, more Kentucky. So we've got Colonel JD Wilkes. He's a real-life Kentucky colonel and the head of the legendary Shack Shakers. Sort of your psychobilly, twisted bluegrass weirdos who are actually on of all labels alternative tentacles. This is called Cock-a-Doodle-Doo. One of their early albums was called Cock-a-Doodle-Don't. And this is really sort of a tribute to, kind of a twisted tribute to country and Western music through their sort of punky lens. They lead off with Rawhide. You always want to hear Rawhide with help on background vocals by Jello Biafra. The song Punk Rock Retirement Plan is also really cool. My number 11 is going to be, heard about this from Russet Mama's Records. So this is Natural Information Society with Evan Parker. So this is going to be sort of your avant-garde choice for my list. So sort of free jazzy. And I found this was going up my list every time I have listened to it again. If I kept on listening, this might break my top 10. So Joshua Adams, leader of the band, plays what's called the gimbri, if I'm pronouncing the instrument correct, sort of a 3-string Moroccan lute. There's also bass clarinet, drums, harmonium, and then Evan Parker on soprano sax. It's definitely hipper than Benny Goodman or Pete Fontaine. The only record in my collection with that particular permutation of instruments, sort of like Morphine. Nobody else groups that set of instruments together. And I'm going to pause and come back with my top 10. All right, number 10 is going to be Massage Still Life. So a new discovery thanks to Sam at the Vinyl Douche. So this is the second record by these LA-based indie rockers. I have one of the rare 120 of their first pressing on black. They did 500 in Coke Bottle Green, which were sold out before I ordered it. I kind of like Coke Bottle Green. I think there's a second pressing in black now available. This is very jangle poppy. You've got male and female vocals. Would have loved to have heard them in the college rock days. Sort of the twee pop influenced by the late 60s music, toughened up with some elements of bands like The Cure and Jesus and Mary Chain. Number 9. So, good old Dinosaur Junior, Sweep It Into Space. So a lot of this follows that familiar Dinosaur Junior format. Jay Mascis's laconic singing and searing, swirling guitars. A couple of good songs from Lou tacked on the ends of each of the sides of the record. Wonder if that's in their contract. Lou also had a pretty good solo record this year that didn't quite make my list. Murph on drums. Sort of the new twist is co-produced and some guest work by Kurt Vile. Some almost quasi-folky elements. Kurt's playing acoustic 12-string guitar in a Dinosaur Junior record. So that's kind of a new thing. Number 8, somebody else that Kurt has worked with in the past, Courtney Barnett. Things Take Time, Take Time. This was sort of at the end of my top 21 after the first couple of listens, but Things Take Time, Take Time. Keeps getting better as you listen to it. It's definitely more subdued musically than her earlier work, but probably featuring the strongest songwriting of her career. And I have a copy that's on a very attractive blue and white splatter there. Number 7, the subjects of my viral video. I have over 4,000 views of my video on this record, Les Fils d'Illegitad at Pioneer Works. So this is an all-female band from, actually, my notes are wrong. There actually is a male member of the band on rhythm guitar, but it's a mostly female band from Niger. They're part of that Tuareg Sahel blues movement. So you've got brilliant psyche guitars. But one of the things that kind of distinguishes them from the other musicians in their scene is sort of the tende, which is traditional storytelling music. The primitive sort of border and pestles used as a drum and chanting that was traditionally music that the women in their ethnic group did. Very drony. Fatou Saidi Gali, I hope I got her name right, on lead guitar. Number 6 is going to be Vanessa Peters' Modern Age. So this is a very cool looking cartoon jacket. Solid black vinyl. I've recently discovered her, and she's like 10 records into her career. She's from Texas, but she spends a lot of time in Italy. The title track, Modern Age, is about questioning sort of our digitally connected world. Is that really what we want? We're going to see more of that in some upcoming records. Kind of jangly, kind of power poppy, kind of West Coast country rocky. I saw her described in all of her earlier albums as being Americana. I didn't really get much of an Americana sense off of this record, so I'm guessing that's more pronounced on her earlier work. I have one other record by hers, but I don't have any of her really early work. Number 5 is going to be sort of my modern indie rock album of the year, The Umbrellas. And this one is on the beautiful and now sold out Coke Bottle Green. Although apparently they do have a second pressing in a different color that you can get it off their Bandcamp now. So they're sort of a jangle pop group from San Francisco. And as when I made my video on them, and a lot of these records I've been showing, I made videos on them in their latest record is great. Most of you haven't watched those, so you could go watch those. They remind me a lot of Unrest, which was a 90s sort of indie pop twee-ish band from Washington, D.C. Both bands, again, featuring both male and female lead vocals. Very tasty and pleasant, jangly songs, a lot of acoustic guitar. And thanks to Mystery Ed for letting me know about this. That's their self-titled debut full-length album. There is an EP that exists that I don't have. My number 4, I almost interchanged it and made it my number 3, but I stuck with it at number 4. So this is Penfriend with Exotic Monsters. So Penfriend is the name that singer-songwriter from Bristol, England, named Laura Kidd uses. She rebranded herself as Penfriend for this particular project after putting out several albums under the moniker She Makes War. This one's on pretty yellow vinyl. I think she had several variants. Beautiful yet punchy songs about the challenges of a digital world. I think this is one of the best album covers of the year. She's kind of cut off. Notice that her phone cord is cut. The tear doesn't look too good for the planet. Maybe we need to escape. And so really helps tell the story. It's almost a concept album, but not in that dorky, proggy way. You can kind of see her punk roots in her indie rock pop songs. A lot of electronic elements. There's a lot of keyboards on this. I think this got some traction in England. I think she got decently high up the charts there. She's basically unknown in America. She also has a podcast called The Attention Engineer. She talks with a lot of cool musicians on her podcast. People like Lou Barlow and Tana Donnelly. And she also talked to Juliana Hatfield. Juliana Hatfield, Blood, is going to be my number 3 record of the year. So the back cover maybe should have been the front cover. There's her hands. I have the solid red variant. Again, this record does have several different color variants that are available. I've seen other people showing different variants. So you guys know I'm a Juliana fanboy. And I'll be honest, I think this is one of the best albums of her career. Most artists don't keep putting out stuff that's good when they're in their 50s. So musically, if you just listen to the music and didn't pay any attention to the lyrical content, it's pretty poppy, it's pretty hooky, it's pretty melodic. A lot more of electronic element, a lot more keyboards, not as guitar focused as generally Juliana albums are. It's probably the most keyboard heavy record of her career. I think a lot of that was due to a couple of factors. She was working at home, learning how to make music using her laptop rather than going into a studio. She had a collaborator named Jed Davis who does electronic music, who kind of helped her out with that. And I know he has some co-writing credits as well. He did a little bit of keyboarding, some drum programming. I think he makes this sound a little bit more up to date and a little bit less like a standard Juliana Hatfield 90s Boston alt-rock album. In fact, there are definitely 20-something angsty female singer-songwriters with guitars that are out there making records that sound a lot more like those 90s alt-rock records than what Juliana's been doing the last few years. But of course, if you read the lyric sheet first and didn't listen to the music, lyrics are really fucking dark and misanthropic. Jules is not mellowing with age. What's going to be next? Well, maybe like when she made Pussycat, which was a very political, very angry album, and she came back with the Olivia Newton-John covers. I think she needed some comfort food. Maybe she's going to do something more comfort foody with her next project. Don't know yet. My number 2 is Mdou Mokhtar, Afrique Victim. So he's a modern day guitar hero. He's one of the best guitarists in the world right now. I mean, he is. If you haven't listened to him yet, this guy is a legit fucking guitar hero. Seriously, if you like people like Jimi Hendrix, you'll like Mdou Mokhtar. The lyrics are in their native language, Temashek, I believe, of the Tuareg people, so the same ethnic group that Les Fils de Iligadad come from. But I really like Mokhtar and his band. They've got an American bass player named Mikey Colton. They're just going to hypnotize you with their brilliance. Of course, Mdou is the star as the lead guitarist and the vocalist. Just like, of course, Jimi Hendrix was the star of the Jimi Hendrix Experience and the Band of Gypsies. But the rhythm guitar player, Amadou Madasane, I'm sorry, I probably didn't pronounce your name correctly, but you do really good yeoman work. He's like your star offensive lineman. Nobody notices him. Nobody's going to notice the rhythm guitar because he's doing his job so well. So, and let me show you the vinyl because I have the really cool version, the Niger flag version. So green, white, and orange. So that's the colors of their national flag. And that brings us to, this is like my longest video ever. This will probably be the longest video I do this year. So, Squid, Bright Green Field, my number 1 record. Rob Walker, you suggested this to me. Look, I picked it as my number 1. This is genre combining in a way that makes it sound like Squid. Doesn't really sound like anybody else. Very exciting young band. So you've got some elements of post-punk, electronica, krautrock, little snippets of jazz almost. The vocals are like sort of spoken word, but sort of shouted. And the man's voice is really distinctive. Ollie Judge, who's also the band's drummer. So he's doing the drumming and the vocals. And this is just, I mean, I just find this to be, I think this is this band I think is going to go on and be one of the biggest bands of this decade. This is the kind of band you can get a Radiohead sort of vibe off of this band, that they're going to be a really important group. So get in on the ground floor with these guys. So that's my top 21 of 2021. Run through the list one more time. 21, Kentucky Vultures, Hall of Fame. 20, Yola, Stand for Myself. 19, My Morning Jacket, self-titled. Number 18, The Mysteries of Life, Blue Jay. Number 17, I Hate God, A History of Nomadic Behavior. 16, Sturgill Simpson, The Ballad of Dude and Juanita. Number 15, St. Vincent, Daddy's Home. Number 14, Illuminati Hotties, Let Me Do One More. Number 13, Parquet Courts, with Sympathy for Life. Number 12, The Legendary Shack Shakers, Cock-a-doodle-doo. Number 11, Natural Information Society with Evan Parker. Number 10, Massage, Still Life. Number 9, Dinosaur Junior, Sweep It Into Space. Number 8, Courtney Barnett, Things Take Time, Take Time. Number 7, Les Fils de Iligadad at Pioneer Works. Number 6, Vanessa Peters, Modern Age. Number 5, The Umbrellas, self-titled Debut. Number 4, Penfriend, Exotic Monsters. Number 3, Juliana Hatfield, Blood. Number 2, Mdou Mokhtar, Afrique Victim. Number 1, Squid, Bright Green Field.